Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session of MCD Live. And today I will be taking the session. And today we're going to talk about something that as human beings, we all need. And as human beings, it is a basic need, it is a basic requirement to feel like human and to be a human. And that is emotional safety. Think if you have someone in your life in front of whom you could be completely yourself, in front of whom you could share everything without having to think twice, without having to spend minutes and hours thinking if I should be saying something, if you should be sharing it, or you don't have to pretend here. Do you have someone like that in your life? Or you have someone in your life whom you have to around whom you have to think twice, even thrice, before you could share what is going on in your heart, in your mind. You have to think the opposite of what you were thinking for the first person we talked about. You have to be calmer, you have to feel lighter around this person. With your words, you have to pretend in order to be more accepted by that person. And you also carefully choose every single word that you speak in front of such a person. You worry about being misunderstood, and you are constantly scared about being criticized or scrutinized for anything that you do. Now, these two experiences are very different. The first experience that we talked about, how is it different from the other one? Because the first one involves emotional safety. The first one had the capacity to make you feel like yourself rather than um, making you become someone you are not. Because whenever we hear the word safety, we attribute it to physical safety and physical protection. But as human beings, we need both physical safety and emotional safety. We need people, we need relationships, we need environments, we need a space where we are accepted, we are respected, we are emotionally secure. And emotional safety is basically your feeling that allows you to express your thoughts, your emotions, your opinions, and even the most important thing, your mistakes, the mistakes that you make, a place where you can actually talk about your mistakes without having yourself rejected in that space by those people, without being humiliated in that space. And um, this is something that we only notice when it is absent. We don't actually understand and realize what emotional safety actually feels and means to us until we actually lose it, right? Until we actually don't have it, when we don't have it in our lives. And once we start noticing it, right, then we realize that a major portion of our well being is gone, right? We don't have it, we lack it. So, this is something we're going to talk about today in today's session. And before we continue, let's spend a few moments of to become more emotionally present and more in order to become more aware so we can understand what emotional safety feels like. So I want you all to sit comfortably, and I want you to take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and breathe out from your mouth. Breathe in from your nose and breathe out from your mouth. Breathe in from your nose And breathe out from your mouth. Allow your shoulders to relax and just notice your breathing. Today, I'm not asking you to close your eyes. I want you to experience this with open eyes because we need to be able to practice all of this without having to remove the distractions, the visual distractions. And right now, I want you to think about one person in your life who you feel emotionally safe with. Who is that person? And someone with whom you can share everything and absolutely anything. What happens to your body when you think about that person? What happens to your body when you picture that person? Does your breathing become slower or do you feel relaxed? How does it actually make you feel emotional? And as you picture that person, do you feel like you don't have to pretend? You don't have to act like someone you're not. And you just have to be yourself around that person. And how does it feel when that person is around you? Does your does your body relax? How does that person actually make you feel? How does that person actually um help you become who you are, help you be who you are? Now bring your attention to a time when you did not feel emotionally safe, when you felt judged, when you felt ignored or criticized or felt misunderstood. How does that make your body feel? How does that make you feel? Does your chest feel tighter when you think about it? How does that make you feel? And now let's go back to that place where you actually felt emotionally safe. We're going to go back to that place where you can be yourself without having to prove yourself, without having to pretend. I want you all to shift your attention back to the place where you were just able to be yourself, around people who love you, respect you for who you are, where you don't have to choose your words way too carefully, and you just have that ample space where you can just be yourself without having um, criticism thrown at you. And you're going to stay here and you're going to take one deep breath in through your nose and you're going to breathe out from your mouth. Breathe in from your nose and breathe out from your mouth. Breathe in from your nose and breathe out from your mouth. And that is how emotional safety actually means and feels for our body. When we are around people where we can be ourselves without having to constantly think and measure about our emotions, feelings, thoughts, and worry about them getting a bad reaction, and a place where disagreement doesn't you know, take a wrong turn and it ends up with you getting criticized and humiliated and you being rejected. All of this sense of emotional safety makes you feel physically safe as well. You know, when you are around people who are like that, who provide you with emotional safety, your body feels less stressed. Your body feels safe. Your body feels calmer than it is around people who are not emotionally safe for you, in front of whom you have to constantly think about and be uncertain about what their reactions are going to be like, right? So in between both of these, the body also experiences a range of things and triggers and all of that. So emotional safety and physical safety are definitely related. And we talked about a little bit about this yesterday as well, that how is our life actually, you know, changed throughout the course of our lifespan, right? How our understanding of things develops in our early childhood, right? And the same goes for emotional safety as well, that the understanding that we have regarding emotional safety, it all begins in the beginning of our lives. It begins in our childhood. As children, we learn about relationships by watching the people around us, the adults around us especially, who who respond to our emotions. Let's say if a child is crying, if you're a child who has been crying and you are comforted, you are encouraged to tell about what is hurting you. You are asked about it without having uh, the adult yelling at you or criticizing you or judging you for making mistakes, for crying. Crying is a child's way to communicate when they are not able to communicate it through words. It's a form of communication as a child that you start crying, you are overwhelmed, and words are not sufficient in your brain. Your brain is not capable as a child where you can express your pain and your worries through words. So you cry, right? So when that is when a child in that situation is encouraged to ask question, to share their pain, and they are comforted in that situation, they learn. They learn that you can do that. You are able to cry. It is acceptable. And people can be trusted. You can share it with people. You can share things with people. And that is a safe thing to do so. Because in return, in response, I'm not being shamed. I'm not being humiliated. I'm not being rejected, right? So this is what you learn through your early experiences. And similarly, when a child is constantly criticized, ignored, laughed at, in some cultures, children start getting to hear very mean things within their households. They are made to feel like a burden. And in children who are brought up in such a situation where they are in such an environment where they have to start protecting themselves from the very beginning of their life, they will become quiet. They will become silent because speaking up, of course, has a price that they have to pay for. And the adults around, they are either ignoring you, they are yelling at you for crying, they're not comforting you. Then, of course, this involves primary caregivers, your parents, and siblings to some extent, but primarily your primary caregivers, including your parents. So at point, such children in their life, they become people pleasers because they believe that keeping everyone happy around them meant that they can be emotionally safe by keeping everyone around them happy. And so what do? They stop asking for help and they become hyper independent. They don't put their hyper independence is again a very unhealthy phenomenon, which is like a trauma response. And in a situation like this, when you grow up, of course, you develop that sense of hyper independence where you don't feel like relying on absolutely anyone for absolutely anything in your life because you feel like it may be perceived as a burden and it may be emotionally unsafe for you because people will react, people will criticize, people will humiliate you, right? The good part about all of this is, of course, everything that we learn about is something that we can develop, that can be changed. And emotional safety is one aspect of our lives that affect everything that we do, every aspect of our life. And you can think of collective emotional safety. Let's suppose there is a classroom and they have two different classes, one for science and one is for maths. The maths teacher might be a bit reserved. He may not interact much with the children, and children may not be very open with him as well because, of course, he may be, saying some things that, of course, make some of the children in the class feel like they are not a part of the group, right? And they may not feel emotionally safe. Similarly, if the science teacher is more open to everyone sharing their things, if everyone sharing their opinions, and is not specifically praising one child and criticizing the other in front of the whole class, then what? There will be a sense of bonding that the children will develop with that teacher. And the same thing happens in our workplaces as well. One employee who is constantly criticized for everything, no matter how good they do, of course they will feel less respected and they will stop sharing their ideas altogether and they will be less confident in participating in meetings and presentations. Of course, it's the biggest cost, actually, we can say, of being emotionally unsafe is we start giving up on so much that we have to offer, on restricting our ideas, our creativity. So this is something that is the biggest cost of being emotionally unsafe. Now, emotional safety, if we talk about it, comes there's a concept called as neuroception, and it was introduced by a neuroscientist whose name was Stephen Porges, and it was a part of the polyvagal theory. This concept of neuroception is that uh, neuroception is our nervous system's automatic ability to detect a situation, whether a situation is safe or it's unsafe. Neuroception is the process; it's the ability of our nervous system to detect whether a situation or an environment or a person or absolutely anything is safe or not safe. And it's an unconscious process. It's an unconscious ability. We don't have to think about it consciously. You might notice that if you visit a certain place or so, your body will automatically start reacting a certain way. And you're not thinking too much about it, but still your body is feeling unsafe there because something is happening in your nervous system and it's happening unconsciously. You may instantly feel comfortable around, again, if we're talking about places, we are feeling unsafe around certain people and we are feeling comfortable around certain people. It's a feeling. It's, you can say, a lot of people use the word vibe, right? That vibe definitely has a neurological basis, right? We might instantly feel naturally comfortable around some people, and around some people we have to pretend to be natural while our body is in the huge chaos trying to be okay. you know um your brain, it will start noticing a lot of things. Why does this happen? Your brain is basically noticing a lot of things that you consciously are not noticing. Someone's facial expression, their tone of voice, their body language, the way they look at you, the way they are sitting next to you, the absolute emotional atmosphere around you. And when these things are not safe, your body has the ability to pick these signals up. And your body, of course, into an instant state of stress. Although there may be no physical threat present, but your brain is definitely interpreting all these cues as threatening to your sense of well-being. And your brain, or your entire nervous system, it gets into the state of emergency, and it shifts into self-protection. You become quiet, you might become defensive around such people, right? At a point, a lot of people do become defensive instead of becoming people pleasers, because they are tired and they are exhausted. And people who are burned out, they definitely have a breaking point, right? Because it's not a healthy thing. Any unhealthy coping mechanism, it definitely has a breaking point at the end of the day. Sometime, someday or the other, you definitely break, and it will all come out of your heart and your body. So you will become more quiet, you will become more defensive, or maybe you will just completely withdraw from a conversation with a person who is giving you those threatening signals. So it may either be you completely withdraw, or it may come like that's of course that is like an avoidance response. Or you will just try to please someone, or maybe you just fight that situation. And that is something you come or arrive to when you've done all the other options. You have carried out all the other ways that you could have possibly dealt with that situation or that person. So similarly, if we have someone around us where, a lot of people, they travel, they go to mountainous regions and they may go to the beach because that space feels different to their usual environment at home, that may be not very emotionally safe for them, where they have to fight every day, where they have to argue every day. Why do people escape and look for escape from their usual routines? Because there is so much stress, there is so many arguments going on around them that it feels absolutely unbearable for them at times to stay in such an environment. And so they look for escapes. They want to feel and experience emotional safety. And traveling to places that are far from that emotionally unsafe environment is one coping mechanism, which is a healthy coping mechanism. When you come back, of course, you do feel rejuvenated, you feel lighter, and it definitely makes you feel better. So emotional safety, of course, our brain has, you just learned that our brain has the ability to sense all these cues. And when we feel that we are around a situation or around a person who is emotionally safe, we find it easier to communicate. We become more vocal, we laugh more, we talk more, we talk about our problems, we become more open, our thinking becomes clear, most importantly. Our thinking becomes clear. We are able to look at different perspectives without fearing that this is going to turn into a huge fight or or a disagreement that is eventually going to put me into a lot of trouble, right? So they can definitely build emotional safety, right? We can build a sense of emotional safety. I did not focus too much on people only. My focus was on environment. And now my focus is going to be on internal safety. How do we create this emotional safety in our daily lives? Because we learned previously that we have an external locus of control and an internal locus of control. Can we control people around us and make them emotionally safe for us? We cannot. That is not for us to decide. That is not for us to make it happen. We can create emotional safety within ourselves. We can develop skills that will help us feel more secure within our own bodies, within our own minds. And when you are emotionally safe within your own self, you may not become a people pleaser. You may not become an avoidant person to avoid conflicts. You will be able to let go of the unhealthy patterns that you have built over time because of things that may have happened in your childhood or later on in your life that shaped your view of the world. And the first step to do that is to be self compassionate. Because most of us people out here, we are kinder to other people around us than we are to ourselves. Because you may make a mistake and you regret it later on, but what is going to be your first thought about your mistake that you may have done? That I never do anything right. I never do anything right. I'm always making mistakes. Some people may even call themselves name. I'm a failure. I'm always and always making mistakes. I never do things the right way. And let's imagine if this someone who's close to you, someone you love, a close friend who came to you making exactly the same mistake. How are you going to talk to them? You are not going to call them stupid. You're not going to say something like, you're a failure and you never do anything right. I'm sure we won't say that to a friend who is so close. We are definitely going to tell them that it's okay. Mistakes happen. How can you learn from this? What can you learn from this? So, self compassion, the same compassion you have for other people, give yourself that sense of compassion as well by offering yourself the same understanding that you would offer to someone else who you care about. And next time, if you're making a mistake, you need to take a break, think, and ask yourself because I ever since I started doing this in my life, because I was someone who used to guilt trip myself a lot, and a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety in my life. It dropped to a significantly lower level because I stopped guilt tripping myself and I started learning. No matter how many times I repeated the same mistake, I would start to think more about what I can learn from this because there is no way you can change something that's done. There is no way you can change it, but you can make the best out of it. And in a situation where you actually make a mistake, think about it next time and ask yourself if there was someone else in this situation, how would I have dealt with it? What would I have said to someone if I care about if they were in this situation, like the one I am in? And then repeat those words to your own self. Of course, it feels difficult in the beginning, but with practice, you will start to notice that it's bringing a significant difference in your life. Second is to build healthy boundaries. Boundaries are something that are looked down upon by a lot of cultures, by a lot of people. So, the first step towards becoming emotionally safe is to set healthy boundaries while learning to say no. When you are setting boundaries, you are even protecting the relationships around you because when the boundaries are being crossed, there are misunderstandings. There is a loss of security, a self security. You may start to develop feelings that are, of course, detrimental to your relationships as well as to your own sense of being. They also help us communicate what is okay for us and what is not. If you are constantly saying yes and you are not able to say no, people may believe that this is an easy person to hurt. It's an easy person to, get any favor from. If, let's say, a colleague, they call you regularly, late night for something that is very non-urgent, how can you create a boundary at that point? You don't have to answer every time, and you don't have to yell at them as well. You don't have to feel resentful. You can just say that you can just send a text that I am happy to discuss this matter tomorrow during our work hours. Let them know that you're not okay with talking beyond your work hours. And if a friend is making jokes about you, about something that you are sensitive about, you can communicate that I know you don't mean it, but those comments are obviously very uncomfortable for me and they are making me feel uncomfortable. Be straight up with how it's making you feel. And there is no need for any guilt or anger to say all of this. You just have to be honest, and at the same time you are saying it very respectfully. And no is a word that is not at all insulting. Not being able to say no harms your well-being. It harms your relationships. And saying yes all the time is definitely hurting your mental health. So every time a situation like that arises, just pause for a moment. Pausing is actually helpful in literally every scenario, every situation, every um, phenomena. Just pause. Just take some time. Just take a break of 2 minutes. This 2 minutes break of pausing and thinking when someone is saying something upsetting, our first reaction is usually becoming emotional, defensive. We may raise our voice, we may say things that are, of course, counter argumentative, and those are reactionary responses. We are more reactionary at that moment. So by taking a pause, slowing our body and taking some few deep breaths and asking ourselves that am I reacting to what is happening right now? Or something this situation is reminding me of? Do I have to do this? Do I have to react this way? Or should I just set a boundary? And if my boundaries are being crossed, maybe I need to fathom if this person or situation is right for me to be in. So pause before reacting. Don't react all of a sudden. One another way to actually feel emotionally safe is to stop measuring your worth by other people's opinions of you. Let's say if if our self-worth is dependent on what other people think of us, we will constantly, be on a we will be walking on eggshells. We won't be ourselves, we won't be emotionally safe. And just like we learned about it yesterday, if we live with our personal values on contrary to what people expect from us. If we are honest, we are kind and respectful, and we act the same way instead of becoming someone who the people around us want us to be, then what? What is the better option out of this? And these values, these qualities, they definitely help you in in developing a sense of identity where you become emotionally safe and secure, where you stop requiring anyone's validation to be who you are fully. So before we finish this off, I would like to leave you all with a reflection that during this, by the end of this day, you have to tell yourself or ask yourself that during this whole day, when did I feel most like myself? Then when did I have to hide my feelings? Because I did fear that I was not emotionally safe, because I feared judgment. And the third question is, uh, when did I feel more emotionally safe today? Was it a situation, a place, a person? What was it? And contemplate on it. Contemplate on all these three questions, and then you will have your answer to what you should be choosing for yourself. So generally, we expect people All right, let's see the answer. Generally, we expect people to understand by themselves what is inappropriate, but they don't understand, and it becomes very difficult to say no. And by saying yes, we are overburdened. Don't you think we become we risk ourselves by overburdening ourselves with people's expectations by not saying no? Of course, saying no is difficult for a lot of us because, as I said, there are so many cultural practices and so many beliefs that have been embedded in our minds since the beginning of our lives that saying no has become a cruel thing to do, an evil thing to do, because our mental well being has always been put secondary, not primary. And the primary thing has, of course, and again, I'm saying in a lot of cultures, the primary thing has been to please the elders, the adults of the house, the adults of the society, the culture, their values, their beliefs, rather than what we want, right? So this is something, again, I said, built because of your childhood, adulthood, adolescent experiences. And we have to unlearn this, and we need to relearn that saying no is not a bad thing. If someone is perceiving your no as bad, as something to be frowning upon, then you need to understand that, is this person emotionally safe to be around? Or is this person I should feel okay around? Or should I be setting my boundaries? And if they are crossing my boundaries, again, is this person safe to be around? Right? Building boundaries is always a difficult task. Unlearning this is unlearning the process of toxic, these toxic values and these toxic beliefs. It's very difficult. It takes time, but eventually, when you start practicing, it is definitely helpful to and it will definitely help you in becoming more assertive. Assertiveness training is something that we in psychology is very it's done for people who are suffering or struggling. So I won't use the word suffering, I would use the word struggling with not being able to say no, because of course it's very difficult to unlearn and relearn, but it is doable. You can definitely learn to do so. Some cultural practices across the world, and it starts right from when a baby is born. Statement like it's a boy and it's a girl. Yes, it's this is primary example of it's a like he can do it because it's a boy. She can not because she's a girl. And it's so common. It is so common and so unfortunate because it's 2026, and this is something that should have ended by now, but it has not. And even it's if it's generally very difficult for anyone to say no, but it's worse for women. It's worse for girls as well, because there are too many, I would say, expectations regarding how a woman is expected and supposed to um behave. So many, such a big rule book has been created, an invisible rule book has been created. So being able to say no is seen as her villainizing an entire culture. So it's of course very difficult. I am so glad you shared this. So I hope, as men and women both, we actually start to prioritize our mental health over pleasing other people, and build that sense of emotional safety within our hearts, within ourselves. And that is what can actually bring a collective change in the mindset around us. So I hope that um, has been helpful for all of you. If anybody would like to share anything, please do so, or we can call it a day. It's very important to raise boys differently. Only then the world will change. And this is coming from my master's in early childhood family education. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. That's very rightly said. Very rightly said. Our and the way we raise our children, as I said, our childhood experiences are so important. The primary years, the first 5 years of our lives. Very important to teach our little boys that it is okay to say no. It is it is a personal choice. A woman has autonomy and a sense of authority in the decisions that she takes. It's very important to teach this thing from very beginning of your of the life. So I hope we are able to raise better boys, better children. So this thing is um, slowly changed as the world progresses. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today, for joining this session today. I would see you all tomorrow in the new session using the same link and at the same time with a new topic. So have a great day ahead, everyone. Goodbye.